Hi friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots. Let's make a two-sided reversible non-attached hat so you can sell some upgrades to the Scandinavian Sweeties pattern. If you'd like to make it, just boop, stick around. As always, please give this video a like so I know you're here. So as you can see, I went bare bones on this because I had a reader question on how to make the hats not attached so that you can move them with still being posable. Let's do it. So she has a lot of cotton and flannel fabric, which are not the stretchiest fabrics. So she wanted to know if she could still do this and how. So I'm going to tell you exactly how. You're going to follow the exact pattern instructions, and instead of just following the pattern, you are actually going to add a portion. So I'm going to add only on the bottom and the top, or the bottom and the side. The top is going to be cut. You're about 1/16 of an edge away from this fold over here, and that's just because that's where the pattern was folded. It doesn't matter. 1/4 will do it. So at the top, I'm going to go exactly where the pattern is. At the bottom, I'm adding 1/4 and on the side. So you may notice my pattern is clear acrylic. I think it's something I want to start offering people because I'm making all of my own patterns this way. So much easier. And they last longer and I don't have to worry about the folders. I love this. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in these and we can put some together. Okay, so instead of using the pattern, we're now going to use what we just cut as our hat pattern. I'm using the same fabric because I didn't have anything that coordinated in a flannel, but you could use a solid, you could use another pattern, whatever. Now, here is where you cut all of your other pieces. So if you wanted the arms, cut those. The bunny ears, cut those. Any of the mittens included, cut those. Oh, for the goodness sake, the gnome feet are my favorite. Please cut those. Anyway, we're going to do the base and the body. So mine is going to be bare bones just to answer her question and maybe help you sell a little bit more. But basically, I have a base piece, a body piece, and 2 hat pieces. All of the pretty sides are put together. Okay, so the body is folded in and the hat pattern, I think that matches. We're going to go with it, okay? All right, so for the body, you're doing exactly as the pattern calls out, creating the curve or the turn. On the hat, you're going to sew everything except the turn, which should be at least about 1 inch to 1.5 inches wide. You'll be set with both of those. So I'm using a white thread in a basic sewing machine. I'm going to give you a hint on where to buy the best sewing machine for pennies on the dollar. We're going to line up underneath the bottom pin of the body, okay? So that bottom pin, we're just going to make sure our needle is on the other side of it, closest to us. Drop your presser foot and your needle down and do 5 stitches. Reverse 5 stitches. All the sewing machines will have a reverse feature. Sometimes it's a pedal, sometimes it's a switch, sometimes it's manual, but they all have it. You're locking in the stitches, and that's what we need the reverse for. So once you have that done, you're just going to go straight. I have lined up on my sewing machine. It will actually say 1/4, 1/8 right on the part you can't see, but it does. And that's how you stay straight. You just make sure your fabric is lined up right there. You go all the way down. All the way down. Don't leave anything. Reverse 5 stitches, and you can actually go right off the edge at this point. It doesn't matter. We're going to lift up our needle and press our foot, cut our threads, and then we're going to turn it around and do the top portion. Again, we're starting just above our pin, and we're going to drop our presser foot after we've aligned our material. And if you want, you can do this the other way, by the way, to align to whatever's on your sewing machine bed. But I wanted to show you, like, this is how easy it is. I promise. Look at this. So easy. If you don't have a guide, you can put a piece of that yellow tape I use for everything. You can put a piece of yellow tape and just line it up that way. All right. Now I'm going to turn. I'm going to show you this in a little bit more detail. If you're new to sewing, don't worry. We left our needle down, lift our presser foot up, and then moved our material to keep going. We sewed to the edge. We're reversing our stitching, and that will lock in our stitches so that we can remove everything. Lift up your needle, lift up your presser foot, cut, and now we're going to attach the base. So we're going to put the pretty side facing in to match. We're going to pin just to the right of the seam. Not a big gallop. I got to push it all the way through, Sarah. We're just going to tack it in place. Now, The magic and why this pattern is sold so many hundreds of thousands of times is because of this little body piece. It makes it so cute and fluffy and round. All right, we're going to take the round portion. We're going to fold it in half like a taco. We're going to press the body like a taco. And we're going to line up these two places where the edges of the tacos meet. Now I want some tacos. Anyway, we're just going to put a pin right there. Now the rest of this is just splitting. So we're going to make sure we line this piece up on the edge and the whole thing is actually flat. Even though the base looks small for the body, I promise you, it will work out just fine. Now, for those of you who are new to sewing, make sure you're actually getting the fabric and not all that fuzzy edge of the fleece. For those of you who are hot gluing, put your entire arm on the table. Go slow with a detail tip glue gun, and that's how you're going to avoid any seam like scrunching. But sewing is so much easier. It's a lot faster. If you have a business, it's definitely a good idea to sew these base. I just sent that pin flying across my craft room. Who knew I needed goggles? All right, so we're just finishing out. But anyway, for those of you who are efficient and want to price things, sewing makes it a lot faster. All right, so and speaking of sewing, we're just going to sew this all the way around. It can be daunting to start at the seam because there are a lot of layers all crunched up together. So just start a couple of sections away and just don't start in the front because you are going to go overlap your stitches. So we're just going to start a couple sections away. All right, you ready? We're going to put this material in. Now, because we have a smaller base, it's going to be a tighter fit. I'm going to move my hand. You'll see in a second. So we're going to make sure our material is not scrunched up on the front or the back side of this. And then we're going to line up whatever seam allowance you're using, your presser foot or the actual bed of the sewing machine will show you. You're just going to make sure. I'm going to try and show you this really close. Can you see the measurements on mine? I'm not sure if you can, but they're there, I promise. And I'm just lining that fabric up on those measurement lines. I'm going to drop my presser foot. I'm going to drop my needle. And then that's locked that fabric down, right? Locked it into place. So there's my presser foot. There goes my needle. And now we can start sewing. So 5 stitches forward, reverse 5 stitches. You've locked them in. And now you can go all the way around. When you go around, you're going to move this body portion out of the way so that this side we're sewing is flat. That's how you avoid any scrunching. We're using a regular needle. This is not a needle for stretch fabric. I get that question a lot, actually. Nope, this is just a regular needle. And we're just going to go around this little edge here and move the body portion out of the way. Over and over and over. And I'm going to speed this portion up. And when we get to the end, this is really like how you know you did a good job and you followed the lines on your sewing machine. Is when you get to the end, you're actually going to meet up those 2 pieces where you sewed on previous starting right there. Oh, it's hard to see right there. I'm just going to line that up, go over it like by a couple stitches, reverse my stitches, and we are done. You have assembled a gnome body with a sewing machine. All right, let's lift everything up, cut our threads. Remember that hole we had on the side of the body? We're going to turn everything out through that hole, use a pencil to poke out the top, and you're good. We can add weight, add stuffing, and a wire. So now I'm going to show you the hat, and this is the money. So non-stretchy fabric, right? We're making sure everything is flat. We're going to start our needle just past our top pin. We're going to line up our fabric, drop our presser foot, drop our needle, 5 stitches forward, 5 stitches back. Don't sew over your pin. And then go all the way around. So I get asked about the curves. We just did an entire curved bottom. You're good. You're just going to move your fabric, lift up your presser foot, move your fabric, lift up your presser foot. Like when you get to a 90-degree turn, I always do a back stitch before I do the 90 degrees. You just literally turn it 90 degrees. Drop your presser foot and keep going. Your needle has stayed in the entire time, so nothing is going to shift. Go right up to the edge of the pin, back, and we're done. Now, when you take this off, we can actually flip this right side out. So when you flip, you just use this to flip it right side out, poking out all the edges, etc. And you can use your fingernail to actually press down that opening. You want that opening pretty pressed so that we are being sure to capture all of it when we sew up the edges. Personally, I like to iron it. I had my heat press on for some sublimation stuff, so I'm just going to drop that into the heat press for 15 seconds or so. And when it comes out, it's so easy to sew. I do recommend, if you're a beginner, grab the iron, because anything like this is going to be made a little bit easier. And you can see our entire opening over here is just pressed flat. It's hidden, right? Because it was easy to join. All right. This is a question from another viewer, but I'm going to tag her in this. To sew a brim with a reversible hat, you're just going to sew on whichever side you want. It doesn't matter. We're going to put our thread on, I'm using, quote, the top, and you'll see why in a second. It does not matter. You're using whatever coordinating thread you want to use. I'm using white to make it easy, but you're just using a straight stitch all the way across. You can use a decorative stitch. You can sew on a piece of ribbon or trim, but it's basically, you line up that fabric, you have no problem keeping it straight. Use your pins or your clips, okay? Again, with that, we still have to lock in the stitches, and now we can put the right sides together. So on a reversible, you're gonna have, with this method, which is the easy method, there's our brim, moving on. With this method, you're going to have one seam and one side without the seam. So if you want one side without the seam, let's say that's a pattern, that goes on the inside. Let's say you have a solid on the outside here, that's going to show the seam. And I'll show you that in just a second. There are absolutely seamless ways to make these hats. This, however, was the easiest and quickest without an extensive video or an advanced sewing tutorial. We're going to start at the top of the hat, go straight across, reverse, straight across, and then on the curves, you're lifting up your presser foot. There you go. And then it's straight all the way down. You're going to make sure you capture, I don't know why it doesn't look like it, but it's straight for me. Those are like lined up. You're going to capture that little hole you left in this edge. So making sure your seam allowance allows for that. When we get to the bottom, reverse stitch to lock it in, and that guy's done. So you're just going to flip that out if you want the pattern side or whatever it was. But you see how on that side will always have a seam with this method. So as I mentioned, I've already added weight, I've already added stuffing, and I've already added this wire. If you're new here and you have never seen me do this, I have an entire Scandinavian Sweeties playlist full of literally tons of ways to make this exact same pattern. I do not make you buy a new pattern for every style. I hate that. I just can't stand it. So we're locking in the wire, whether you lock it in with some hand stitching or you lock it in with hot glue. Now, your user, whoever you sell this to or for yourself, you will always have a bendable, quote, hat without any wires actually coming through that hat after usage, okay? So we're just gonna slip it on, make sure the points are aligned, make sure we're gonna pull this seam to the back. I like to make sure everything is aligned and fully straight before I put on my gnome beard. So I'm just going to scrunch up this hat. I cut a rectangle. All of this is detailed in the pattern. If you're new here and I'm going so fast, do not worry. I have you. I promise you all of this is detailed 100 times over on this channel, and it walks you through each step in the pattern. So I'm just going to glue that on. You can absolutely hand sew it on. Bless you if you do that. And now I'm going to pull down the hat to where I want my nose, and then I'm going to scrunch it up, split the fur to the fabric backing, add hot glue there, and glue on my nose. You can use a half round like I'm doing, wood ball, wood bead. You can make a fabric nose, a pom-pom, whatever your heart desires. Instead of gluing this on, we now have a full, you can see how tight it is. It's scrunchy. It perfectly fits this body, right? And you can still bendy-wendy it, which is probably not the right term. I don't wiggle it, squiggle it. It's a squiggle. I don't know what it's called. But here he is, super quick, little tiny change. You do not have to order another pattern from me or anybody else to get this. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. Below, I will actually put the link to the Scandinavian Sweetie pattern and the entire playlist for inspiration, so you can decide if you want it. Let me know what you think about this. As always, thank you for being here. Please like this video and subscribe for more crafty fun.